One thing a songwriter should never say at a funeral. Hey you guys, it's Trey Vittetoe here. Today I want to share a story that has a moral of very limited use, but in the right circumstances, this story may prove useful to you one day. A number of years back, when I was still working in publishing, we had a songwriter signed to our company named David Baerwald. Now, David has written a lot of music for film and television and such, but people may know him from the days of his band, which was called David and David. Their big hit was called Welcome to the Boomtown. But David had a lot of success beyond the band. One day he was meeting in the office because of a very difficult legal circumstance that he had gotten into. At the time, David had written a song called Come What May, and it was featured in the movie Moulin Rouge. And David wrote the song himself. I'm confident that he wrote the song himself. I knew David well enough. I heard the story. He came into my office and elaborated on the story. He actually had to record some audio explaining how he wrote the song and why it was a fact that he had written the song by himself. So here's what happened. David wrote this song, and when he went in to record it, I won't say who the individual was because I don't want to embarrass anybody or their family. So David went in to record the song, and he hired a good friend of his that he had written songs with that shall remain nameless, but this individual came in to play piano. And I guess during the recording session, there was an open mic, and so a lot of the conversation was recorded in the studio. The individual that came in to play the piano was saying, well, David, am I going to get paid for this session? How much am I going to get paid? And I guess in the session, David was showing him how to play the song. I'm going to give the guy a fictitious name just so it's easier for me to refer to him. Let's just call him Jim. So Jim was the piano player that comes in on Come What May. The song is used in the movie Moulin Rouge, and it ends up making David quite a bit of money. And unfortunately, Jim passes away in a very, very tragic and somewhat embarrassing accident. So David Baerwald is asked to come sing some songs at the funeral. And unfortunately, they were videoing this. That was one of the unfortunate pieces of this story, was somebody was videotaping at the funeral. And David is up there in classic David Baerwald style. He's got his acoustic around his neck, and he's got a cigarette, starts to tune his guitar, and starts to prepare to sing this song. And this is the story that David told me. He says, as I was tuning my guitar and just kind of setting up the song before I played it, I looked down in the congregation, and there is the family of Jim, and they are distraught. I mean, it was really a tragic death and very unexpected. They are beyond words in a very sad, awful place. And David was feeling that. He decided that maybe it would be a comfort to the family or something if he said this, but he said, this is a song that Jim and I wrote. And he proceeds to sing Come What May. So everybody in the funeral is moved. David does a really great performance. And I think he felt like it was a beautiful moment, and it was touching and helpful to the family, except for one small detail. He's now said on film that Jim was a songwriter. Now, Jim wasn't a songwriter on the song. He'd come into the studio to play piano on the song. He was a hired musician. But David had had a history of writing songs with this guy. And of course, after the family starts to get over their grief, and they realize this is a pretty big song in a movie, they start to wonder, where are the royalties coming in from Jim's portion of the song? And so when they check the credits, they realize that the credits are 100% David Baerwald, which of course creates a massive legal issue. and they hired an attorney, and they sued David Baerwald. And unfortunately, the prevailing fact of the situation was the one that David presented at the funeral when he said, "This is a song that Jim and I wrote." And so, no matter what, no matter that he had the guy in the studio, the guy clearly didn't know the song, he had to teach him the song, there was obviously discussion of fees as to how much he would get paid for a piano part. All these things were secondary to the fact that David had said, "Jim and I wrote this song." So the moral of the story is, if you're in that situation, if you've written a song, and in fact, somebody you know that you've written with before dies, and you're at the funeral performing, don't say that you wrote the song with the guy if you did not write it with him, because that can come back and haunt you in a big way. So David lost half the royalties on that song. And if you look it up, you will see that there are 2 writers listed on the song, David Baerwald and Jim. And no discredit to Jim. If he had been alive, I'm sure he'd have said, "No, I didn't write that song. I wish I had, I didn't." But those were the circumstances. So there you have it. I hope you guys have a great day. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And until next time.